One, a two. Oh, two, three. He picked up the guitar at the relatively late age of 19 and quickly began to master the instrument, developing a uniquely personal sound based on an unorthodox technique which simultaneously charmed and confounded new guitarists. By the time he came to record at the half note, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb had left Miles Davis to establish themselves as a regular working unit in their own right. His initial impact on the jazz community was with a series of recordings for Orrin Keepnew's Riverside label before moving to Verve. We're talking about none other than Wes Montgomery, the album Smokin' at the Half Note.
Ready, set, go.
Well, all right, then there's no better way than let's just start off let's play some clips.
All right, let's do that. You're right. There's nothing better. I'm going to start with 4 on 6.
All right.
We'll just play the opening of that. To me, it is a quintessential sound right there of Wes Montgomery. That fat finger, he used the meat of his thumb to play the single note solos at the beginning. There's a lot of conversation about his playing style that everybody learned from. The way in which he used the meat of his thumb and the way in which he began his solos with single note sounds and then built those into these amazing solos. That's why I love that particular song and that particular intro.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and 4 on 6 he wrote that tune. So
it is the only tune on this album written by Wes Montgomery.
Yep. What'd you think, Dad?
I like it. Yeah. Because like you say, there's some good style, and I'm not one to catch the different key changes, but obviously it's a good piece to begin with.
Oh, and it's got some great swing. I mean, the groove on that piece, right there, your clip, man, it is just grooving.
It is. The whole song grooves, but the whole album grooves too. So there's nothing wrong with this one, baby. It's it just happens to be that this one does have some serious groove to it.
Yeah. All right,
Dad?
No blues, baby. No blues. Let's start at 5:45 roughly and play for the 3 or 4 minutes.
It is a 12.5-minute song, 13-minute song. So let's go ahead and hear some No Blues. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down there.
Thank you.
Whew.
Thanks. So I
You
think
can
this
definitely keep that one going, though.
Yeah, yeah, this has got it all. This is the whole group playing together with Wes playing this guitar piece and such a smooth rhythmic flow to it that just brings you into it. And especially like it sounded like a back and forth kind of situation where we're playing, we're going here, we're going there. And they blend so well together. I played it for Mom this afternoon. I said, "What do you think?" She said, "That's jazz. That's real jazz."
Yeah.
So there's another affirmative kind of note here that your mama approves of it. So that's pretty good.
It's interesting because I was reading about this particular song earlier and his solos. We've always heard it call and response, but somebody in the critics wrote it was a question and answer. Boot doo doo, boot doo doo, boot doo doo, boot doo doo. And so, like a conversation back and forth, he would ask the question, he would answer the question, and I couldn't figure out why they didn't just say call and response. But the writer, the author said it was a question and answer, really because the call and response would be a longer phrase. Ooh, you gonna get it when Mama gets that wooden spoon? Oh, I done got it. Ooh, it's going to hurt when Mama gets that wooden spoon. Tell me about it. So these call and responses are longer phrases, and Wes just says, boot dee doo, and then responds to himself, beat dee doo, beat dee dee.
Yeah.
I love that.
I do too. That is a great clip. No Blues was written by Miles Davis anyways. And it's no surprise. I mean, you got his rhythm section playing behind Wes.
Right.
I love the way that Wes comps over the piano though. It's light. He's present, but he's not overpowering. The piano's going on, and then he goes down, just like that little lick right there, but the piano is still going in the background. I mean, that's his solo, and Wes just fits in there, not really forcing himself on it, but he's present. You can hear it and hear and feel him there with that question and answer session going right there over the piano solo, which I don't mind one bit. But that rhythm section was together for quite some time, anyways.
Yeah.
With Miles, and so it's no small miracle that they just play so well together.
Mr. PC or Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, and Wynton Kelly. How many years have they already been together? And then how many albums did they record listed as the quote unquote the rhythm section?
Right.
They were just hired out to everybody as the best rhythm section. And that was proof of that right there.
Yeah.
Matt, what did you want to hear?
Okay. Well, I didn't have a hard time picking clips, but I'm having a hard time narrowing it down. So I love the song Misty. It's one of those ones where I remember playing it in the Army, the military jazz band. And it's just, I love the piece. I love the melody. Let's start song number 10, Misty, right about, what I say, 10 15 seconds
or so.
Yep. 10 seconds in. We're just going to skip the little intro from the announcer. Okay.
I didn't want to.
Right.
I wanted to just keep that going.
It's such a beautiful tune, and don't get me wrong, I love the fast guitar, I love the swinging style, I love the every fast thing that he can do on the guitar. For me, that slow ballad style that he just does so well. He doesn't rush, he doesn't lead, he is just right there in the pocket playing that so beautifully.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to rush a ballad because inside you feel like I got to get there. I got to be bop up, ba 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 ba, and by the time you get to the middle of the song, you're already you've upped the tempo of the song quite a bit just for your own internal clock. Oh, this is too slow. The people are going to get bored. I got to speed it up. Blah blah blah. He just is in the pocket that whole tune, and he just lays this. It's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful.
Dad, what was your take on Misty?
Oh, of course, I like Misty as well. And I think, like you said, Matt, it's just so rhythmic and not pushed. There's no rush to it. And learning to play slowly is so hard to do.
Yeah.
And if I could just interject this, Lady D is trying to teach me to slow down with my beats, and it's confusing. I'm used to a rhythm, and then she says slow it down by 10 or 15, and I get lost. So this is great work.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Who originally wrote Misty? Do you know?
Errol Gardner.
Okay.
Yep.
And my second question, what would he say, how impressed he would be the way that Wes Montgomery played this?
What was interesting is I had to figure this out as we were doing it because I heard a vocalist singing that song.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 1963, Swinging the Tivoli, where Sassy,
Sassy
Sarah
swings
Vaughan
too.
sang that. And I could hear her singing that as if it was his guitar.
Yeah.
You know, you've asked about what instrument do you listen to if it's a vocalist singing. And Sassy now to me would be Wes Montgomery's guitar. I could hear that smooth tone in that version. And so not only what would Errol have said about Wes playing that song the way he did, it was Johnny Burke, who wrote the lyrics, I'm assuming. And so what would they say to that? To the both of them doing that song. So
it's a great question. Oh man, it's fun to watch the singing competitions on television. The Voice and American Idol and America's Got Talent. It's fun to watch young people do covers of songs. And you always think, man, that artist is still alive. What would he or she say? And sometimes the judges say, oh well, I happen to know Bear Reinhardt from Need to Breathe, and he would love that cover that you just did. Or I happen to know Rod Stewart, and he would love, or he would die for that cover. So yeah, what would Errol Gardner say? It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Wes did it justice. I think he really did. He did justice. Yeah.
Well, here I want to mess up our rhythm of things tonight. Now that we've listened to this and we've had a whole week of this album, first note, last year or when we first did this album, Matt, we took 2 weeks on this music. So we got to hit pause. You were doing probably moving or sitting.
I was moving. Nope, I was. Well, here's what I got in my notes. This week was move week. I got a lot of Wes and a lot of not as much as the artist who we were recording back then, Lenny Tristano. We recorded Lenny Tristano this week.
Yep.
That we did it. You were sick on Monday, so we did not record Lenny Tristano on Monday, and we didn't record until Wednesday, and we didn't talk on Tuesday about Wes, so we waited until the next week because you were sick that week.
So we had taken extra time with at this point. What y'all's week's been like? Let's just go ahead and get into our weeks. Let's just do a shortcut of that, and then we'll get back into the album.
Okay. Well, let me go first because it's on my mind. Wednesday night last week, we went to New Haven, downtown New Haven. They were having a music munchie and market little thing. So we went to hear Hubie Ashcraft down in New Haven. It was gorgeous, gorgeous evening. We were sitting in the shade. It was still hot outside, probably 90 degrees, but under the trees and in the shade, it was 82 or 83 degrees. They were awesome. They played a great show. We had a great time. And then on Thursday night of last week, we got to go hear Gunslinger and Lady D perform at Page's Crossing. Drew, you were there last year for that gig at Page's Crossing. So it was a great night. It was hot that night as well, but under the shade and pavilion, we were very, very comfortable. Page's Crossing is a good venue for that kind of thing. There wasn't a ton of people just because it was so hot outside. We didn't have nearly the crowd that we did last year, but it was still, Gunslinger laid it down. We had a great time listening to them. And of course, this week for me, all of this music seemed like I had just listened to it yesterday. I remembered everything that I had listened to in my library. It came back to life for me this week. It was just so awesome to put Wes back in my ears this week. It was funny because I did a little, I told you a couple of weeks ago I was going to do some Fats Navarro. I did a lot. I did a lot of Fats Navarro this week. I did a lot.
Congratulations. Welcome to the big leagues.
However, I wanted to go back to one of my favorite artists who we've covered, and I listened to Courtney Pine a little bit this week too.
Oh man.
So yeah, Modern Day Jazz Stories was in my ear. The whole album was in my ear this week. So I did a lot of eclectic music, Fats and Courtney, the Melvin Rhyne Trio, the Melvin Rhyne Quartet, and Melvin Rhyne. So, of course, and then I just couldn't get enough of Smoking at the Half Note.
Yeah. Dad, what about you?
Last week was stressful. We had come from a long weekend and stressed over trying to find a vehicle to replace the van. And shopping on Tuesday went really well. We finalized a deal. I was hoping to finalize it on Wednesday, but it had to wait until Thursday before we could bring the vehicle home, purchased, and now we have a simple loan to pay, which we can afford for the next 6 months anyway, unless y'all want to make some contributions to my car loan.
You know, instead of saying you can, there's a link below for buy me a coffee. There's a link below for car payment. We'll put that in there.
And I'm sure, Drew, you'll talk about what we did on Friday night. Last Friday, we did we were going to do 15 minutes. I think it
was about 18 minutes when it was said and done.
Yeah.
Almost 19 minutes, but I'll let you talk about that. But this past week, I had a lot of music in my ear. I listened to another album by Artemis, and unfortunately, I didn't write down what album it was, but I like that group. I even listened to Herbie's Maiden Voyage.
Oh,
yeah, I was all over that. And then let me see what else I got here. I had from, I think it was Pandora, I listened to a various jazz selection that kind of here and there. And then I was Googling today and found the clarinet Marmalade from the original Dixie Jazz Band. I think it was like 1918, 1919. So then I listened to Tiger Rag from the same group, and that was 1917.
Well, you were 12 back then, right? So that'd been right up your alley.
Yeah, 12. Actually, 12 and a half.
That's going to say he was probably 13 or 14, Matt. 1912. Got to remember, turn of the century. He was there when Buddy Bolden blew his horn.
I'm sure you guys had listened to Wes's Movin' Wes
Oh yeah.
which was a kicking album. And I even listened to Wes Wynton Kelly's "It's All Right."
Mm.
Check that out as well. There you have it. That's my weekend music.
Your dad's so old he heard Bix Beiderbecke blow his horn on that winter night in 1928 into the cornfields outside of Indiana University.
Yeah, it was a clear night.
Oh man, it's been a week here. I've bounced all over the place, and as far as music and trying to just finish up some last minute details of life. Practicing my horn for Sunday night's ensemble, and had the last, well, not my last, but Lily had missed her sax lessons for 3 weeks in a row, so I've had my third horn lesson. Dad, you had mentioned Friday night we did a quick recording to honor and respect Chuck Mangione. What a fun episode that was, just to pay our respects and to avoid the conversation about his most well-known song. So there's a lot to be said about Mr. Chuck Mangione. So that was a good, quick, impromptu episode that we threw together. Wes Montgomery, man, Groove Yard from the Montgomery Brothers. West Coast Blues with Harold Land. Work Song had become my favorite album this week again, Nat Adderley, where Wes Montgomery was on it. But I've got about 12 albums of Wes, or the similarities, the Montgomery Brothers and so on. So
Did you do the dynamic duo from
I
1966?
did with Jimmy
Jimmy
Smith.
Smith? Yeah, and that's Oliver Nelson's band behind him.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
That one will go on my all-time top 10 favorite albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dynamic duo.
Yep.
And as we get into the information, I will focus on something here with Mr. PC himself. And I keep saying Mr. PC. A lot of people, when Paul Chambers passed away, had done some kind of a honor song. Coltrane did Mr. PC, which we've learned to play on Sunday nights. But you forget how great this trio, this rhythm section really is until we get into this. So let's get into the slideshow. Let's
All right,
get into
cool.
some information.
right.
Thanks for accommodating that quick change of style here.
No, I like it. It's yeah, good to get that out of the way. That way, when I say what I say about my slide, you know what we did in all week long. Whatever we do it to jazz. You just heard. That's pretty much what we do. Tonight we are talking about the Wynton Kelly Trio with Wes Montgomery, Smoking at the Half Note. I did put an album cover, picture of the album cover up there. It's just okay for me. I'm not going to say too much about it. It wouldn't make me want to listen to the record if I was just looking at the cover. It did raise a lot of questions though, because I didn't know much about the Wynton Kelly Trio, so I started doing some research on that. I didn't know anything about the Half Note Club, so I did a little bit of research on that. We may talk about it, we may not. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, the jazz style for the day. We're going in alphabetical order, so this week we're going to talk about big band as the jazz style. Big band is a type of musical ensemble, in essence a jazz orchestra, that typically consists of at least 10 musicians and 4 sections. So what are the sections, Drew? The 4 sections of a big band.
Well,
Got the rhythm section.
you got your brass.
Yep, got the trumpet section. Got your woodwinds.
And now I'm thinking, what is the fourth?
Yeah, what is the 4th?
Is there a string? Is strings
Yeah.
part of?
Not typically in a big band.
No.
Unless the trumpet section is a section, the trombone section is
I
a
just-
section.
I bet
Yeah.
it is, because you'll
section.
have the saxes. I was just thinking about the Republic of Texas Big Band that does their jam here on Monday nights in Lakeway. You'll have the trombones. Typically, right, for us, it's the trombones in front of the trumpets. The trombones then have the saxophones in front of them, and then
Yep.
your rhythm section is off for us, stage left, or
Yep.
it's stage right, view left. So
Yep.
I bet the trombones are that 4th section. For all y'all smarty pants, go ahead and let us know where we're wrong in the comments below.
Yeah.
And while
please.
you're writing a comment, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the Unconnoisseur channel here on YouTube. And if
There
you're
you go.
listening on the podcasts, please jump over to YouTube and just hit subscribe onto the channel and hit like on this episode because we know you're digging the information we're throwing down.
There you go. All right, let's move on to the next slide where you can get it. Say it every week. You can get it on all the major streaming platforms still. I did check Amazon Music. Dad, you listen to some of yours on Spotify. Drew, you listen to yours on YouTube Music. So those major streaming platforms, you can listen to Wes Kelly, Wes Montgomery, Wynton Kelly, and Wes Montgomery on those. But we prefer that you go to your local record store and buy it local. I did put a quote from Wes at the bottom of that slide. I've really gone into business since I got the 6-string, which was like starting all over. And that's a quote from Wes. And the reason that why I put that on there, because during my research, his first guitar was a baritone 4-string guitar. And that's kind of what he taught himself on, was that 4-string guitar.
Acquired by his older brother for him.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And
Hey,
so
listen, older brother, I'd like a flugelhorn. I'm just saying.
I'll run down to the trash heap and I'll get a funnel and I'll get some tubing.
Behind Hires, they have a metal funnel.
Yeah.
We can duct tape something on to make a mouthpiece out of it.
On my still, I've got some copper tubing.
Yes.
And I'll bend.
Yeah, good idea.
And I'll send you a flugelhorn. How's that?
He started on the baritone. He started on the tenor.
On the tenor guitar with 4 strings. So when he got his other 2 strings, he said it was just like starting over. So it was a cool quote. I just wanted to highlight it.
And a cool bit of history there too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the timeline slide. On the timeline slide, I got in 1923, Wes was born. And then in 1943, at just 20 years old, well, at 19, he bought his first guitar, but then at 20, he became a welder. And that was pretty much his profession. There was a few other professions listed for Wes. He worked for a milk company when he was younger and learning and teaching himself the guitar. But then in 1964, I forget where I read it. No, I know exactly where I read it. It was on the wiki page. In 1964, he released an album, and they called it a crossover album. It wasn't jazz and it wasn't pop. And so they thought that he might become a pop artist instead of a jazz artist, and they called him crossover from jazz to pop. I just thought it was interesting, so I put it in the slideshow.
Yep.
But we all know how it turned out, because in 1965, this album was released, and it's a banger. So yeah. Just 3 years after this album is when he passed away. So did you do any research? What he died in Indy, right? He was born and died in Indy.
He was, yes.
So
born and died. He traveled a lot, spent a lot of time in Europe as well, as did many of the artists at that time, but then came back, toured for a little bit, and then settled back into Indy, which is where he, which is officially where he had passed away.
Yep. Dad, anything to add so far? Are you good?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the information slide. Wes Montgomery. The only influence that I could find for Wes was Charlie Christian. And pay attention, because Charlie Christian is the influence of Wes Montgomery. He may be coming up in just a couple of weeks. I'm just saying.
Be. And not only inspiration, this is the strange turn of history. He copied all of Charlie Christian's work. That's what he sat and did in his evenings. If he wasn't at the club as a welder, he would come home at night and practice and play. As a milk distributor, come home and play. But he copied the sound of Charlie Christian until one day when Lionel Hampton was coming through town and Charlie was not there. Do you have this in the facts coming up?
I do.
Okay.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Hearing me shut up, we'll get back to the information slide.
Well, and I was gonna expand on that a little bit too, because he would get home from his job as a welder, and that's why he learned to play with the meat of his finger, because he didn't want to learn with a pick because his family was asleep.
Yes.
He didn't want to wake his family up, so he practiced with the meat of his thumb, and he got so proficient at it to keep it quiet. he got so proficient at it that once he picked up the electric guitar and realized that he didn't need a pick, he could still use his thumb, but still get that amplified sound. He was like, cool, this is what I'm going to do.
This reminded me. Go ahead, Dad. You were getting ready to say something.
I picture him having very strong hands and fingers, because my anticipation is welders have to have a lot of strength in their hands, their forearms and their upper arms. They've got to have a lot of strength. So for him to play quietly and reverently, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
This is how I pictured him, though, like Steve Goldsmith. Coming home, have my dinner, get cleaned up, and then I'm going to sit down in my recliner in my chair, and I'm just going to pluck through my guitar. I'm going to play the music that I want to play. For Steve, it was the Beach Boys. For Wes, it was Charlie Christian. And for Steve, it was quiet time. It was a time to just relax and play guitar. I think about that with Wes. When I was reading these stories, that's why it hit me. I'm like, man, this is cool. All right, let's move right along.
Okay, cool. Let's see. He's got 22 studio recordings. 8 were released posthumously, and then he shows up on 11 as a sideman. So 41 total albums to listen to from Wes. I mainly focused on Wes. The Wynton Kelly Trio, I didn't do any information on that. This is just our episode on Wes Montgomery, so I did not focus any information on Wynton Kelly Trio.
I can encourage you to say one album that I know that you focused on from part of that trio.
And part of that trio,
Paul Chambers.
Yeah.
Played on Blues and the Abstract Truth.
Blues in the Abstract. Well, and
So-
and they also play Kind of Blue too. So
So you didn't really have to focus on the trio as much as we've just focused on them out of the
Correct.
fact that they're on so many incredible albums.
correct.
So
The genre that I've got listed for Wes is jazz and then bop and bebop. That's what I found. I didn't expand on it anymore. Drew, thoughts on that? Nope. Good. All right. Let's talk about a few facts. He bought his first guitar at the age of 19. He worked in a milk company. He was self-taught. He was a welder and did music as a side gig. And then, like Drew said, in 48, Lionel Hampton was rolling through town. He needed a guitar player. They said, hire Wes. He went and listened to Wes. Bada bing, bada boom. The next thing you know, Wes is in Lionel Hampton's band. Information about Smoking at the Half Note. Smoking at the Half Note, the live part was recorded in June of 1965. It was kind of unclear to me whether they missed the three songs at the Half Note and they had to go to the RBG studios in September to re-record them. But what we've got is some live and 3 recorded songs, 3 studio recorded songs on this album. It's not a whole live album.
Creed Taylor wanted those recorded not live. He wanted those in the studio. So before they ever recorded at the Half Note, he had already booked the time at the studio for several of the songs to be recorded cleanly.
Cool.
And because you're up in New York, you just call Rudy up and say, "Hey, man, can we get some
Yeah.
time scheduled?
Yeah, we need studio time.
Make sure your mom and dad know we won't be smoking in the house, and we'll be out by 4 a.m. We'll keep our dirty clothes off the furniture."
We're going to be smoking at the Half Note.
Smoke, yeah, we'll smoke at the club before we come down.
We'll be smoking. We'll be smoking.
Yeah, Creed had already established time to go record several of those songs to begin with. So
Cool. Well, and my very last note on the information slide is Wes had played with Wynton Kelly before. This is not the first time that he played with the trio. So it's good to be together with old friends again. Kind of thing.
So for somebody like myself who is strictly an unconnoisseur, did you say more about the Half Note?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, this recording, Smoking at the Half Note, was actually recorded at the Hudson Spring location, and there was 2 locations of the Half Note. One of them was in 2 Manhattan locations. One of them was in Soho, and then the other one was at 289 Hudson Street. So it was just a jazz club. It was owned by the Cantorino family. I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. Come play at the club. That's what it sounds like to me. But yeah, it was renowned for showcasing the new and upcoming artists. But the new and the upcoming artists back then, Zoot Sims, John Coltrane, Mingus, Wes Montgomery, Cannonball Adderley, Chet Baker. So those were some of the artists that played at the Half Note and even did recording. I mean, Horace Silver did a recording live at the Half Note in '66, just a year after this one. So
Good. Thanks.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's not frustrating that I wasn't born yet, but man, what would it have been like just to go buy a ticket and sit in the Half Note and just listen to jazz for an evening?
Right.
And of course, you're listening to Wes Montgomery, who is probably fairly well known in the industry at that point. But man, you just go and say, hey, let's go have some supper and we'll get a few drinks and listen to jazz at the club. Oh man.
Well, and I've got to think about that too, because not many places, Austin is one of them, not many places have clubs where you just get to walk into and check out talent. Wes would have been the local talent playing the guitar there in New York because that's where he was at. So if he got done welding and went out and played at the clubs, he was a local figure, probably not well known. And then when Lionel Hampton picks him up, he becomes better known. And then when he's recording at the Half Note, you got superstars playing up in there who, at the time, I think about the 60s, we weren't thinking about them as superstars. Here we are 60 years later talking about the brilliance of Zoot Sims or Wynton Kelly, Thelonious Monk. But then they were just some up-and-comers. They were the young lions of the 50s.
Okay, so again, Wynton Kelly was a name that we know, but I didn't know much about. So I, of course, pulled up the wiki page and defined that Kelly was part of the Third Army Traveling Show. He did a 2-year stint in the military. He was recruited by fellow draftee and a piano player, Duke Pearson, to come to the Third Army to have more African-American musicians. And they were initially the only 2 out of the dozen performers. By 1954, Wynton Kelly was Private First Class Wynton Kelly, and he was the musical director of the show, the Third Army Band show.
Pretty cool, right?
He ended his military service performing in front of an audience of 10,000 people at Chastain Memorial Park Amphitheater in Atlanta. So, not that we thought he was chump change in the beginning, but that just elevated Wynton Kelly to me to superstar status because he's an Army bandsman, Army musician. And yeah. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, Mr. PC, beyond Oliver Nelson, the blues and the abstract truth, Thelonious Monk's brilliant corners. The bass player on that. He played with almost everybody but John Coltrane's Giant Steps. All of these albums that we will recognize, this is who these musicians were. Chambers, as a bass player, recorded about a dozen albums as a leader and more than 100 albums as a sideman in his career. He was with Wynton Kelly, obviously, 63 to 68, Miles Davis, 55 to 63. So, yeah, these guys are no chump change guys.
Mm-mm.
And to know, I did read that fact about the Army Third Band. I thought, I bet Matt's going to get a kick out of this. So, yes, you did.
Yes, I did. I happened to be in the 4th Army Band, which was stationed at Fort Sheridan. Wynton Kelly was in the 3rd Army Band. So,
that's awesome.
Dad, you look like you got something to say.
I was just wondering if you ever had a chance to play with him.
No, but I wish I had. Okay, 6 Degrees was super easy this week. To finish the slideshow, my portion of the slideshow, 6 Degrees was real easy because we're talking about Wynton Kelly playing with Miles Davis, and of course, Wes Montgomery plays with Wynton on this album.
And there's no doubt that whole trio was Miles's rhythm section. So
yeah, there's
put
no doubt.
any one of them on there.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't even need to ask you if you found any others because
No.
yeah.
No, I was like, I'm not even digging. I got these three right here.
Right here. All right, let's move on to my final slide in the slideshow. And today in jazz history. Today is August the 6th. Today, trombonist Vic Dickinson was born in 1906 in Xenia, Ohio. Dad, how far is Xenia from here?
Like 3 hours. It's nearly an hour east, a little bit south of Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, well, I'm going to be down in that area this weekend, believe it or not.
Are you really?
Oh, I'm going to Dublin. You know it.
Yes.
Yep. Second feature in Today in Jazz History, vocalist Abby Lincoln was born in 1930 in Chicago, Illinois. We covered Abby,
Yes.
and we really like Abby. Bassist Charlie Hayden was born in 1937 in Shenandoah, Iowa. Why is that important to me? Because Charlie plays a lot with my man Pat Metheny. So anybody that plays with Pat is okay with me.
I didn't realize he was born in 37.
I didn't realize he was that
Wow.
old either. Yeah, that's old. Shenandoah, Iowa, though. That's the other
Yeah.
interesting fact. One final quote on the bottom of that slide for me: "Smoking at the Half Note, the absolute greatest jazz guitar album ever made. It is also the record that taught me how to play." That's a quote from Pat Metheny about Smoking at the Half Note. So, the hero of my hero better be my hero, right? So
Better be.
better be. All right, Dad, tell us what's new.
Okay. Tonight, we're going to cover Dee Dee Bridgewater, who has a brand new album entitled Elemental. And what's interesting about this album, more specifically about Dee Dee Bridgewater, she's been around the circuit since 1966. She's 75 years old and still swinging, still singing in such beautiful, beautiful rhythmic kind of tone. I read somewhere today, I think it was the National Endowment of Arts, who called or said about her music, it's like honey. And I asked about what range she had, but all that they said was a wide range. So it doesn't help me much. But I think our listeners will appreciate this album, especially if you like vocal music. And somebody else said that she's like the last of the female vocalists to sing scat.
Mm.
She is all over it. I didn't write down which track it was, but she's even doing whistling
Yep.
on the track.
Yeah, that was Honeysuckle Rose.
Yes,
Yep.
I like that track.
Yep, I do too.
And there was one track later in the album where it sounded like she was using a mute over her voice, and it carried through in such a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
I really think our listeners are going to like this. She did So Wonderful on the album. I'm Still in the Still of the Night. She did a Caravan
Yes, she did.
at The More I See You. The whole album, it just brings you into it and into her and into her life. And again, I emphasize the fact, here's a lady who is 75 years old, still performing at a high, very proficient level. And the man she's playing with, the pianist, Bill Charlap, has his as well a very extensive resume.
Wow.
And I think all we got is a piano and a vocal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple, direct, and so stylish. So
Drew, did you get a chance to check out the
I
album
didn't-
out?
No, I didn't. I saw the slide earlier, and this is the first
Okay.
I've really heard or seen of it. The
Okay.
fact that she's doing all of these big standards, Mood Indigo being one of them,
Uh-huh. Caravan.
Caravan being another,
Mhm.
The Still of the Night, Love for Sale, you gotta start to think, wow, you're gonna put yourself out there singing those. You better back it up.
Isn't that a
And
White Snake? That's a White Snake song,
it
right?
sounds like it, yeah.
It's the still of the night.
Well, when I hear "In the Still of the Night,"
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
that's not what that's not what it is, but it sure does sound like it should be. But yeah, Bill Charlap as well. I was just looking him up here. Man,
yeah. He's no chump.
so Elemental, Dee Dee Bridgewater, and Bill Charlap.
Dad, when did it come out?
It came out like in June of this year, the middle of June this year. So it's basically brand new.
Brand new.
There's also information that she's a UN ambassador for food and hunger, something like that.
Okay.
So this is a woman who has a degree from Michigan State. I forget the other university she's a part of. She's been given doctorate degrees, and I think our listeners really, really will appreciate this Elemental album. Listen to it, please.
We've heard some
Yeah.
great vocal jazz on the channel on our journey.
Mhm.
And just so you're aware, if this is your first episode with us, we are using the Jazz Wise magazines, the top 100 albums that shook the world from 2022. That's our guide on our jazz journey. That's how we chose to do our journey and listen to as much jazz as we could over the 100 weeks. So we have heard some great vocal jazz, and Elemental is going to be right up there. It may make the next list for all I know.
Mhm.
So
Very well could. I was looking for the record label on that.
DDB, Delta Delta Bravo Records.
Oh, it's DDB Records.
Yep, DDB Records.
Okay, cool.
And she's recorded with other studios, I believe.
9 songs, 47 minutes long. So
Yep.
it's not like a 8-hour journey of your life listening to Elements.
Mhm.
All right, let's do the final thoughts on the album here of Wes Montgomery.
Smoking at the half note. Loved it. Would tell you that this is a first-time listener jazz album every day of the week. This is also one of the most important albums if you're into guitars to listen to it. To me, the album was just spot on. It'll quench your thirst for all kinds of jazz. It'll liven you up in a bad mood. It'll put you in a better mood if you're already in a good mood. But the way Wes can play, and of course the trio behind him, and this is, I found it interesting in Wikipedia, it's not listed as him as a leader. This is co-leaders, the trio with Wynton Kelly trio and Wes Montgomery. So if you're looking on Discogs, you won't see it under his leader. You'll see it as wasn't even co-leader. It was collaborative effort album. So what a brilliant, what a banging album. Must listen to it. Every single song, whether long or short, made you want more music. And when the album ended, there was never enough. Which is why I gorged on more Wes Montgomery.
It's not hard to do.
No.
It's really not.
No. And it's memorable. It's earwig music. It's going to get stuck in your head the more you listen to it. You'll start to recognize the melody throughout all of the solos, and you'll start to hear it from everybody.
Well, and I think it's recognizable enough to where you're going to pick out right away, that's Wes playing the guitar. You're not going to think, well, it's not Pat Metheny. He's got an indistinguishable sound, but you're not going to mix him up with Django. You're not going to mix him up with John McLaughlin.
Nope. Well, and that's interesting you say that, because we're at week 21. I mean, we've had 79 other albums in front of us, and this is the 4th guitarist we have encountered at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure. You want to go ahead and give your rating?
Sure.
Okay.
I gave it a 9.5. Would I have gone to a 10? I should have. I should have just placed it at a 10. However, his dynamic duo with Jimmy Smith, I'd have gone to a 10 on that one. That's my flavor, though. As far as pure guitar with the rocking with the amazing trio. I won't say rocking and rolling, but with that amazing trio behind him, I'd have left this at a 10. But 9.5 is what I gave it.
Okay, so it met all of the criteria for me. The craftsmanship was there. Even the live recording part of it was crafted very, very well. You could hear, for the awareness, you could hear where everyone was. The crowd wasn't too loud in the background. The music wasn't overpowering. It was generally an overall good mix. The creativity, obviously, I mean, it's Wes. The creativity is there. The spirit of the music, of the jazz, of the bebop, it's way up there. The emotion for me is what kicked this up for me this week. I loved it so much. I'm at a 9.5 as well. I did fail to mention on the slideshow that this album, Smoking at the Half Note, did not make the 99 or the 06 list. Wes did make the list with the incredible Wes Montgomery on the 99 list at number 30. And then on the 06 list, the same album, the incredible Wes Montgomery, at 24. Of course, this week on the 2022 list, we're talking about number 21, Smoking at the Half Note. So this is the first time on the Jazzwise list for Smoking on the Half Note.
Gentlemen, I really thoroughly enjoyed this album. And probably, well, at the beginning of cycling season this year, I had Wes in my ears while I'm riding, and the flow of it, the style of it, the emotion of it, I just loved it, and I anticipated now this week of getting and hearing it pretty straight, going from one track to the next track, and I don't have all the words like the two of you have to describe this album. Drew, you're obviously a wordsmith. So I'm just going to say, listen to what Drew said about the album and what Matt says about the album. That's what I'm going to say about the album. So I rated it as well, 9.5.
Wow.
I really enjoyed the live performance, and I didn't catch his name. I didn't write it down, who the announcer was, but Drew, you probably got that. Yes.
I'll let you continue. I'll bring that up. Yeah.
Okay. But I so much appreciated the fact that it was a live album.
Yeah.
And it took me to the club room with Three Rivers Big Band while the trombone player is announcing who the artists were and then what the next song will be. And so I could relate to it very well. So that's my rating. That's my comment.
That's a good score. And it's not surprising. I'm glad that you enjoyed it that much. I really, really am. Let me ask you, first time listener, would you recommend this album? Would this be one that comes up and says, hey, what should I listen to?
For someone who enjoys guitar music, definitely. I would, maybe if I think about it, I would ask, do you like guitar music and a good rhythm and a good style? So then listen to this album. You gotta go there. You gotta go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great score. You know, I'm just going to bring this up real quick. I had somebody ask me this week who my favorite artist was. And it's not that I couldn't think of something, but I had to stop and step back for a minute and say, tell me what genre that you're talking about. Tell me what year that you're talking about. Give me a letter of the alphabet, and I'll tell you my favorite artist in that letter.
That's funny.
H, Freddie Hubbard. He's my favorite artist.
W.
See, that's a tough one because Wynton Marsalis,
Yes,
or Wes Montgomery, or Wayne Shorter.
Yeah,
you have to. It's funny because you have to narrow it down. I mean,
you do.
What kind of jazz are you talking about?
What about if I said S and R?
M and R, or M and S, Maria Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I thought you were going with that. Oh, that's where I thought you were going with that.
But but for sure, we're still 20 weeks away from the top album that we're going to encounter, and already we've got so much music under our belts. Not that it makes us any less of unconnoisseurs, because we're still very much an unconnoisseur to jazz, but it just gives us so much more to listen to, so much more to cut our teeth on. So that's all. It was a small little rabbit hole I wanted to talk about this week. Who's your favorite artist, Dad? Who's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite jazz
Well,
artist?
I gotta say, my man Gregory Porter.
Oh, Gregory Porter.
He's right up there.
Yep.
Okay.
He is.
Yeah.
He is one of the best.
Drew, what about you? If someone walks up to the street and says, "Hey, who's your favorite jazz artist?"
CT.
Clark Terry. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. CT.
Fair enough. That's fair. I might just roll off Esbjorn Svensson Trio right off my.
Matt, I have to agree with you though. In alphabetical order, which one do you want me to pick? You want me to pick guitar, sax, tenor sax, or alto sax,
Or
soprano
alto.
sax?
Yeah.
And if you want to go with the Stitch, I'll tell you that Roland Kirk was the best at it, or nose recorder. Yeah. There's only one of those.
So again, it was just an question posed by one of my friends this week, and I thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
Because I had to step back and say, give me some finer detail here. What do you want to know?
Yeah.
So
Art Blakey.
Oh, for you? Yeah, Art Blakey.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good choice.
Man.
Okay.
So, Dad, to answer that, Alan Grant. I knew it was Grant. I couldn't remember his first name. Alan Grant was the announcer on that. And Alan Grant, Matt, had put on a performance of jazz. It was called Portrait in Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
That is where Wes Montgomery had played with Melvin Rhine, the organ player. So we needed to check that album out.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing of note, how things connect. This was Creed Taylor, the producer of this on Verve label. In a couple of years, he started CT Records. Creed Taylor Records, which we got into later in one of our episodes. Where did that record label come from? So that was Creed Taylor. But those two names, I wanted to mention that because Alan Grant had a lot to do with jazz at the time, as well as jazz festivals.
Well, and it was a radio program too, Portraits of Jazz. So he mentions on the album, we had a caller call in requesting this song, and you're thinking, well, what are you talking about? You had a caller, somebody called the jazz club and wanted you to play standing outside, or what? It was interesting to me. So Portraits of Jazz was a radio program that they did.
It's interesting, and I say this: how many of these little things are connected? It's a radio show that's going down at the half note. Why was he doing that? Well, it was part of the 60s, and you're broadcasting music. You're broadcasting some of the best musicians in the world right there from a radio channel inside half note. Creed Taylor's part of that. All of it. Rudy Van Gelder's part of this. How many albums did Rudy touch? That will be a question for another day. Every jazz album from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 2000s,
except for Charles Mingus.
Except for Charlie. And by the way, Matt, if you guys want to find us, you can find us on our website, The Unconnoisseur. Go ahead.
We're not done yet. Dad, you did the intro. Do you want to talk about next week's artist, or do you want me to do it?
Yes, he does.
I did the intro.
You did
You're
the intro?
doing the outro.
I will do the exit.
Told you to do the outro.
Number 20.
Hey, that's a milestone, guys. It's a milestone. We've got 80 episodes under our belts. We have 20 weeks left.
Number 20, none other than HH, Mr. Herbie Hancock. I like this.
My favorite artist in the H's. Well, next to Henry Sweets Edison.
Okay, so the album is Headhunters. And I really do like the album cover. I'll just say that. And I have listened to this album several times already in the previous weeks. And I'm looking forward to diving deeper into this album. Herbie Hancock, Head Hunters. It's a Columbia record recording. So I'm looking forward to having a discussion with you all about Mr. Herbie Hancock.
You said you've listened to the album already?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Good.
I'm not ready to rate it or anything.
No. We need to wait to listen to it and
coming
process.
off of last week's Mahavishnu Orchestra, this is that same rock fusion stream of things. So I wonder how we'll rate this in the week to come. You'll have to watch next week's episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Now
Please.
tell them where they can find us.
As always, come over to our website, theunconnoisseur.com. We got lots of great information. Matt's talking about jazz styles in the episode each week. We've got a list of jazz styles. We have our list of the ratings of every album that we've done, 100 through 1. If you have any questions, drop the comments below. Email us at theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Check us out on TikTok or the YouTube channel. Thank you guys and gals for tuning in on the 3 streaming platforms. Did he
He's
forget?
Sorry.
he's got one more thing.
I am sorry.
Here's my
two
thing.
questions, actually.
Here's my thing.
What country plays jazz the most?
Sweden.
And if you say the USA, you're not right.
No.
I would maybe say France.
No. Japan
Yes.
The
Yes. Yes.
peanut.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
plays more jazz than any other country. That's amazing to me.
Well, the UT professors were over in Japan just recently touring, so that doesn't surprise me that it would be Japan.
Sakura Kuroda.
Amen to that.
Yeah, right.
One last question for us to consider. What are butter notes? I don't need an answer now. I want to look into that, but I saw
Are they different than butter beans?
I'll bet you they've got to be. They've got to taste better than
Well,
butter.
I can tell you this. Stop playing the butter notes.
Okay.
All right, we'll dig into that. Dad, you'll have to start next week's episode with asking us that question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good
Again?
idea. Yes, again, yes.
Are you serious?
Gotta earn your keep.
I'm not getting paid enough for this. What are you guys doing?
I'm telling you, he's gonna get drafted away from our show.
Oh, that's
All
great.
right.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
kids.
Thank you.
Are you sure he's your favorite H?
Not
Herbie
really. He's up there, though.
Okay. Horace Silver.
I-
Blowing the blues away.
Well, that's an HS. Herbie Hancock is HH.
All right.
All right. Now I'm hanging up.